what do you think about the talk that we're living in a simulation? I just want to get your thoughts on it. And from what it's been explained to me is that if you agree that we are advancing in technology, and whether Moore's rule is right or wrong, or if it continues, is that someday we will be able to create and build a reality like you and I are experiencing now in say a virtual reality simulation.
Right.
Then I think the theory is that if that's possible in the future, then maybe that's possible now.
Yeah.
And so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that it is absolutely conceivable that we live in a simulation, and I think it's not true.
Okay.
You're allowed to think about it.
Right.
Maybe it's right. I think it just makes our understanding of the world harder and without solving any problems.
Right.
So in fact, I think you can do a little bit better than that. There's this sort of a strong version of the simulation idea is that we can imagine building computers and simulating little life forms and little civilizations, on our computers. And therefore, we can imagine that there's sort of many more simulated beings in the world than real beings, if we're the real ones. And therefore, most beings in the universe are probably being simulated by somebody. And therefore, we're probably being simulated by somebody. But I think that doesn't quite work, that argument, because there's a lot more that we can build than there are of us, so that would sort of predict that we'd be in the dumbest possible simulation, right? In the simplest, most crude, most low-resolution possible simulation to be in, which I think we're clearly not. So I think that people underestimate how difficult it is to really simulate a full world like we see. Like people say, the moon, there's the moon, okay, they're thinking like a video game designer. They're like, don't render the moon when we're not looking at it. But the point is the moon moves around and you have to keep track of it. And basically, roughly speaking, to simulate our universe, you would need a computer as big as the universe, or at least with as much information processing capacity as the universe. So I just don't think that imagining that we live in a simulation really fits with what we know about the world we live.
Okay. Yeah, it's something I've had conversations with. I mean, at some point...
But it's possible. Could be, yeah.
It's possible. At some point, it kind of becomes moot. Sometimes my life definitely feels like a simulation. Nothing else would explain it. When I had Ben Goertzel here, he talked a little bit more about singularity as well, but he said in the future, I want to have 20 of myselves that are replicated in various virtual platforms, and I don't want to have to, need my physical body, and maybe I don't need it. And from a guy, I get to talk to a lot of different people in the world, and a lot of them are people that believe our bodies and our minds are kind of all one piece,
yeah.
And that all of these experiences we have are integral in the human experience. I get to someone like Ben Goertzel, and he's like, "What are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's an ancient way of thinking. That's like a caveman way of thinking. In the future, I'm going to have 20 different Bens. One's going to go here, one's going to go here, and I'm actually going to have a much better life." You're thinking in an anachronistic way. What do you think about those concepts?
I think that there's a couple of reasons. I don't buy it. I don't really go along in that way of thinking for a couple of reasons. One is, if you truly had a version of yourself in a computer, it wouldn't be you. It's not like a little part of you. It's a separate person. They have their own hopes and dreams, right? Like They experience things, they instantly become different than you are. So it's not that you have a version of yourself. It's more like you have an identical twin. No one thinks that identical twins are two copies of the same people, right? They're separate people even though they started in the same place.
Right, and then also they're immortal in the computer, so by definition they are different right away.
Right. Something like that is true. However, the other reason why I think that I'm a little skeptical is a lot of these thoughts are really vastly underestimating the importance of our bodies to our minds. The mind does not come out of the brain all by itself. Like the brain... is connected to the body in a very, very deep way. Like sometimes you get tired, sometimes you get intoxicated, right? Sometimes you fall in love or you get hungry. There are external forces that keep the brain going in a certain way, right? That's a very different paradigm than a computer. Like you can turn on your computer, your laptop, you don't touch any buttons, it doesn't complain, it doesn't get bored, it doesn't get hungry, it just sits there, right? None of these sort of needs that we have as embodied creatures are necessarily part of living in a computer. You can try to simulate them, okay, you can try, but you don't have to. I mean, why would you make a computer that gets hungry all the time, right? So I think that they're just vastly underestimating the importance of living embodied in an environment with needs, with interchange with the environment, where we talk, we breathe, we eat, all of these things kind of matter to who we are as human beings.
Yeah. And now, of course, talking about intelligence being located in the gut, and then the heart having other things in the heart, and then there's a lot of other things besides just the brain as the processing unit. I'm kind of along with you, but it is also interesting to hang out with someone like Ben, where he's just like, yeah, you're looking at it the wrong way, man. It's
like it's great to think about these things because that's how we make progress, right?
Yeah,
like we imagine things that are impossible, and then we realize what the mistake was, and then we fix it, right? And we make progress that way. So I'm all in favor of it. And I'm probably wrong about my predictions 100 different ways. But it's good to have all the different inputs from different people who understand different aspects of the problem.